Hello friends! Welcome to my channel. My name is Brooke and you look lovely today. This is my October through December wrap-up because I didn't film wrap-ups for 3 months. So we're just gonna do it all at once. And now my neighbor's dog is barking. So the first 3 books I read in October were Princess Ever After, The Tea Dragon Society, and Aquicorn Cove, all by Katie O'Neill. I originally got these from the library when I read them, but since then I bought my own copies. It's a sneak peek at my next book haul because I loved them. They're so adorable, they're so cute, her art is so good. I'm gonna buy and read everything she ever makes. I even had my sister buy me one of the Tea Dragon Society stuffed animals for Christmas. Your girl's obsessed. Quick little summaries. Princess Ever After is about a princess locked in a tower and the princess who saves her. The Tea Dragon Society is about a little girl who finds a lost tea dragon, which are these little baby dragons that grow different kinds of tea leaves on their backs, and if you take care of them, you can like harvest the leaves and make tea. And she finds a lost one and she returns it to its owner and she starts learning how to take care of tea dragons. Aquicorn Cove is about a little girl who goes back to her hometown with her dad. They've recently been hit by a hurricane and her dad are going to help clean up. And while she's there, she discovers this little aquicorn magic creature in a coral reef kind of area. That's not what it is, it's a tide pool. That's what it is. Next, I read Pet by Akwaeke Emezi. This is about a black transgender girl, we love that, own voices representation, who gets a drop of blood on her mom's painting and a monster comes out. The monster says he's here to hunt a monster. The problem with that is that in the town that she lives in, there are no monsters. It was very good. I think at some point I will have to give it a reread to just fully absorb it because the writing is so strange but also so beautiful, and there's so much like allegorical symbolism in here that I don't think you can get it all in one pass. Then I read and annotated I Am Not Your Perfect Mexican Daughter by Erika Sanchez. She was one of the keynote speakers at Texas Teen Book Festival, which I went to in October. Did not actually end up seeing her speech because we got there a little late. It is about Julia, who is the daughter of Mexican immigrants. At the beginning of the story, like the very first line, this isn't a spoiler, her sister has died, and so a big part of this book is her dealing with grief, finding out who her sister is, and also who she is. This book deals with a shit ton of themes, a lot of which I couldn't personally relate to, but it's not written for me in a big way, so I'm okay with that. I still think they're important things to discuss. It was a lot darker than I thought it would be because she does deal with depression in this book, so keep that in mind if you're going into it. But overall, I enjoyed it. Then I reread Looking for Alaska by John Green, which came out in 2005, and John Green's pretty popular, so you probably know what it's about. But in case you don't, it's about this boy. What's his name? Actual name? I wanted to call him Pudge, but that's not his actual name. His actual name is Miles, and Miles goes to this boarding school seeking his great perhaps. And there he makes a whole new group of friends, and he meets this girl named Alaska, who he's kind of infatuated with. And that's the before section. And then there's an after. I really enjoyed my reread. I have not read this for like several years, 7 or 8 or something. And it's never been my favorite John Green, but I did always like it. And I did enjoy my reread. And I made a whole vlog about it. Then I read the first 7 volumes of The Girl from the Other Side manga. This was the first manga I've ever read. I made a vlog about that as well. We're enjoying making these theme vlogs, y'all. I think it was a really great choice for a first manga. I also really enjoyed the story, and I'm looking forward to reading more, both of this story and other manga. Then, for Witchathon, as you may know, I had a very ambitious TBR, of which I only read 2. The first of those was Serpent and Dove by Shelby Mahurin. This is a romance, enemies to lovers, witch hunter, witch. And I really enjoyed it, and I know that there are problems with this story. I watched a lot of people talk about it, but for me, it was just a fun read. I've been really wanting like paranormal romances. The second book I read for Witchathon, right crossing over into November, was Gideon the Ninth by Tamsyn Muir. This book is kind of hard to explain, but this line about sums it up on the front: lesbian necromancers explore a haunted gothic palace in space. And I did enjoy this, and I'm looking forward to the rest of the trilogy. Then in November, the first book I read was The Fountains of Silence by Ruta Sepetys. This was the November Barnes & Noble Young Adult Book Club pick, which is why I read it. I'm not really big into historical fiction. This one is set in Madrid, Spain, and it takes place sometime after the Spanish Civil War. It follows one American who's in Madrid with his family, and he wants to be a photojournalist, and he meets and falls in love with this girl named Anna, and you get Anna's perspective as well as her family members. I enjoyed this, but it's not like my thing, so I'm probably going to pass this book along to my cousin. But if you're into historical fiction, I recommend. Then I do have to make an apology because I put out an Indigathon TBR and I fully intended to read those books, but I got halfway through Trail of Lightning, and it was not that it wasn't good. It was very good. It just was a lot heavier and denser than what I wanted right then, and I didn't want to force myself to read it or those other books and not enjoy them just because of my mood. I wanted something lighter, so I decided to pick that up later. I will come back to it, and in the meantime, picked up some other stuff. The first one of those was Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston. You know what this is about. It's like the biggest book on BookTube right now, but I'll tell you anyway. It is set in an alternate universe where the United States has its first female president. Her son falls in love with the Prince of Wales. Drama ensues. It's enemies to lovers. What's not to love? I really enjoyed this. I don't think I had the emotional response to it that a lot of people did. It could also have been my mood was kind of down when I was reading this, and I was reading it to lift me back up, and I will probably reread it at some point in the future. Then I binged Gemina and Obsidio by Amie Kaufman and Kristoff. This is the second and third books in the Illuminae files, the first of which I read this summer. I only have the dust jackets because my sister took the books to read and left me these because she's one of those people that reads without the dust jacket on. But this series is one of my favorites of all time. Like, it is on par with the Lunar Chronicles, which I love. Marissa Meyer is my queen, and so that's saying a lot. Some part of me already wants to reread it. I can't talk a lot about these specific two, being the second and third in the series, but in Illuminae, you have space attacks on a mining colony, people running away, you got zombies on a spaceship, you got an evil AI computer, and what more could you want? Then I read Tell Me How You Really Feel by Amina May Safi, which I got from the library, which is why I'm looking at my phone to make sure I say all the things correctly. This is also enemies to lovers, but it is an FF romance, and both women are people of color, so that's amazing. We're down for it. And there's like art involved, which I always love books that have like people who write or people who make films or people who make art. Like, that's my shit. And it was so good. I related to both of these girls for different reasons, and I really liked it, and I hope to own my own copy someday. And then very quickly at work one day, I read The Boy, the Mole, the Fox, and the Horse by Charlie Maxey. This was the Barnes & Noble Book of the Year. That's a thing they're doing now, and it's adorable, and it's so cute, and it made me tear up a few times. Like, it's just some art with captions, and it's about this little boy who makes friends with all these animals, and they kind of just say cute things to each other, and it made my heart happy. Then I read Witches, Sluts, Feminists by Kristen J. Solé from Interlibrary Loan, because my library didn't have it. But this is an academic-ish sort of work, and it talks about the intersections between these three things. I enjoyed this. It wasn't quite what I wanted it to be. I was hoping for something more along the lines of Waking the Witch, because I'm really interested in the witch as a feminist icon, but also like a pop culture thing, which Waking the Witch was perfectly, and this was not quite, but it was still a good read. And if you're into witches, academically, I suggest it. Then I DNF'd Scythe by Neil Shusterman, which I know is like a really big book on BookTube. It was the December Barnes & Noble YA Book Club pick, and so I was reading it, but I really didn't like it, which I really hate, because I really like Neil Shusterman. And I could tell it had Neil Shusterman's great writing, his great plot, but there were so many small things about the world building that annoyed the living shit out of me that I could not deal. Like, I could see how a lot of people would like it if you're able to ignore those things or you don't care as much. It was bothering me, and I just didn't want to deal with it. I read about half of it. I got to like page 220, but then I was like, I don't need this in my life right now. Like, I don't like to DNF things ever, but I'm like trying to like get better about it, so we said bye. Then to finish the year, I wanted to pick up a couple of holiday reads. I originally intended to do a little vlog, but that didn't happen. But the first one I picked up was The Afterlife of Holly Chase by Cynthia Hand. This was a book that when I heard about it last year, I thought the concept sounded so brilliant. It's kind of like a Christmas Carol spinoff, where there's this company called the Scrooge Project that picks a person each year who's a Scrooge and tries to rehabilitate them. Holly Chase was the Scrooge one year and she failed. And because of that, she died, and now she's the ghost of Christmas past trying to save other people. It sounds amazing. The actual outcome wasn't as good as I was hoping. Like, it was okay to read, it was a fun read, and it actually turns out to be kind of a romance, which was kind of what I've been in the mood for, so I was happy about that. But the writing wasn't as good as I wanted it to be. And then, finally, my last book of 2019 was Let It Snow: 3 Holiday Romances by John Green, Maureen Johnson, and Lauren Miracle. This was the only older John Green book story that I had never read. The only other one I haven't read yet is Turtles All the Way Down, which just came out last year, so we're gonna get to it. But I was finally like, we're gonna get to it, we're gonna watch the Netflix movie, it's gonna be great. No, John Green has failed me. John Green has never failed me. But this book was so bad. Like, at first it was okay. Like, we were just rocking along. I'm like, whatever, it's a YA rom-com and it's from 2008. But 2008 called and they want their sexism back. Hard, y'all. Like, all my blue tabs are just like problematic moments. And almost all the sexism in this story derives from the mere fact that there's cheerleaders in it. Like in the first story, the main POV girl character meets these cheerleaders on a train. She doesn't like them. She finds them annoying just because they're cheerleaders. They're all wearing like these warm-up outfits with their names on the back, like cheerleaders do, and she notices that a couple of them are named Amber, a couple of them are named Madison, and from that point on, every cheerleader in the story is an Amber or Madison. All of them. Like, they don't get individual names. It's horrible. So much girl on girl hate. And then the second story, which is John Green's story, is entirely about groups of guys trying to race to this Waffle House that the cheerleaders have ended up in because their train breaks down because of the snow. And it's just so much like objectification, and the girl love interest in that story also hates the cheerleaders because I'm not like other girls. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's so many problems with it. So many. And the movie derails from this book like a hard left. It's like they tried to suck out all the sexism because it's 2019 and they were like, oh shit. And then they stuck in a bunch of like common YA tropes and blended it up. So it was like moderately okay, but not amazing. And I'm just upset that John Green failed me this hard. Like, I realized this was 2008 and it's from a teenage boy's perspective. But there's literally a line, like I tweeted about this. Let me see if I can find it. Literally, the boy narrator says, she was much more like a person than other girls were. And this book, if I was rating things, would get 2 stars. Maybe even 1. 1.5. Somewhere in there. I'm gonna keep it because I annotated it and it's part of my John Green collection. But I low-key hate it. So those were all the books that I read in the last 3 months of the year. Now you're all caught up. We're all caught up. Let me know if you read any of these this year. If you're gonna. Don't read Let It Snow. That's all I'm saying. And thank you for watching. I love you. Bye.